Hello and welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Given podcast. Today's recording, I talked to a young lady called Tilly. She lives up in the Angus Glens and is basically embracing Glen life. She's also creator of Tilly Talks podcast. Now we get to talk about all matter of things with her, be that her new child, looking at how they're doing a bit of dog training, work up in the Glen life, just basically looking at a young family actually trying to make a go of it, living in an ever-depleting area where the glens are emptying and people are moving to the cities and holiday cottages and things like that are occurring. So, yeah, really interesting chat. But before we get onto that podcast, let's have a quick look at where we are in the March now. Everything's gearing up. The bucks are starting to look absolutely fantastic. We've got a lot of animals moving around in velvet, some real promises. I did see actually the other day that somebody had posted a photo of a clean buck, which is really unusual to see a clean buck in March. I think they were down near the borders or something like that. So, the season will be on us if you are in Scotland and sticking to the original season. It'll be April before we know it. We can get stuck into them. Obviously, the male deer season doesn't exist in Scotland, so there are people out there that will be still shooting. They probably shot all the way through, but I think a lot of guys will stick to the traditional seasons, and their buck season will start on the 1st of April. In more exciting news, you may have seen our Instagram post with our new mugs, new stickers, so they will be available from this point forward. We'll have them at the Stalking Show, which is not far away now, April the 12th and 13th at Staffordshire. So hopefully if you're coming down, come along, see us. And remember, there's that absolutely fantastic competition. It's free to enter. And at least we've now got 10 prizes in there. I'm not going to repeat them all again. They are on the list of the other podcast and they will be on social media. You'll be able to find them on the Facebook page and our Instagram feed. So again, come along to that show if you are into deer stalking or just shooting in general. It's not really a pheasant shoots and things like that, but it'll be all to do with the rifles and everything along those lines. But well worth a visit. In some other news, there was obviously an article released somewhere, I think it was on one of the Scottish news channels, regarding anybody in Scotland potentially having to have a deer stalking qualification, basically to prove that you can shoot. So that means that if you're a recreational stalker or a lone stalker, you will have to have some kind of deer stalking certificate, be that the DSC1 or the PDS1. This is a bit of a change to law and legislation. It hasn't come in yet, but knowing how Scotland works with its laws, this will come in fairly quickly. And I would say that anybody in England probably wants to keep an eye on things, because if it does roll into law up here, the English government will actually start to look at it for the rest of the country. I wouldn't be surprised if Wales doesn't bring this in. They seem to be very quick on changing legislation, for example, snaring, trapping and all sorts of things like that. So, yeah, it could be a change for the UK completely. I think I've spoken about it many times, how the rest of Europe is all, you have to be licensed before you can go hunting. Well, I think that could be coming to the UK. Is it another ploy to try to get us away from firearms? Who knows? But let's watch this space. Anyway, I'm not going to carry on waffling for much longer. Let's get on and listen to my conversation with Tilly. The Outdoor Given podcast is proudly sponsored by the Shooting and Hunting Academy, an online training platform and UK registered learning provider that provides a host of accredited and nationally available courses and masterclasses delivered by leading industry experts. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Given podcast. Today I am joined by Tilly. Who is Tilly? We're going to find out in a minute. But I can tell you one thing, she does now run her own podcast. So if you, after this, and you've listened to it, go and have a listen to her. Hello Tilly, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for this very short minute organisation of trying to get this recording done. I think we were going to try for something for next week, but you suddenly went, "I can do tonight," and it was like, "Cool, let's do it."
I always think if there's an opportunity to do it, get it done. And it means I won't overthink it for the next week about what I will say and won't say as well.
Fantastic. So let's basically one of the questions I normally ask everybody is, well, tell us a bit about who you are.
Okay, so I live in the Angus Glens currently, with my partner Tavion and my baby Mabel. I kind of come from not a farming background, but a rural background. I used to follow
Okay.
my dad around everywhere, um, and yeah, we've got loads of animals. Oh goodness, this is when I get all nervous. I apologise.
No, you're all right.
um, so we run a dog business. We've got our own kind of croft here: chickens, ducks, horses, um, all that kind of thing. So I've kind of grown up, as I say, following my dad around. He used to do a lot of deer stalking, going to the local syndicate, followed him doing that, like filling up feeders and whatnot with him,
Okay.
fishing, and just kind of got my love for the outdoors that way.
Right.
Um, and sorry, freezing up a little bit. I
No,
didn't
no, no,
really
no
see
worries.
my.
I was going to say, because obviously, if anybody who knows you or has looked you up, they'll see that you've got a fair social media presence already, and you've just now created your podcast. So let's have a chat about what was the reasoning for starting that. It was just try and give us a few words as to why you've gone down the route of a podcast.
I don't think it was specifically planned to be a podcast. I had actually started a podcast with somebody else. However, that didn't work too well. But I kind of thought, oh well, why not? It's it's something else to do. As I say, we've got Mabel and everything going on here, so I am home more often than not sometimes. So something else to almost keep my brain ticking. And I absolutely love sitting down and talking to my partner about stuff that he's done in the past, about what I've done in the past. It's almost our time to sit down and chill after a day. So being able to share that, log it, and then look back on it, I something about that I quite like
It's almost
in
like
a sense.
keeping a journal, isn't it? But it's not a journal that's written this time. It's actually sort of an audio journal that other people can join you on that journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I didn't expect it to get the feedback I had. I wouldn't have expected like my mum and my dad and Tay's mum and dad to listen to it. And goodness me, they have, and they've got all of the families to listen to it. We've had so many people message us. We've had people walk up to us on a shoot saying, "Oh, what a brilliant podcast that was!" And you think, "Oh, they actually wanted to listen to that."
Yeah.
I I it's something I'd not really wrapped my head around. So for something that started off thinking, oh well, maybe we could just do this on the side. We'll record something every other week and I'll put it together and we'll put a podcast out each month, has in a month turned into actually we could make something of this and this could help us promote our our life in a way, because that's what social media is about nowadays. Your people, they don't want to be you, but they want your lifestyle.
Yes, yeah,
And
they want to see into what you're doing. They want to see all the nice bits, and I think that's the crazy part. But obviously, with the podcast, you can explain. It's not all about the glamorous photo. There's actually the real life behind it as well.
yeah, no, exactly. And like, if anybody does listen to the podcast, a lot of it is just me and my partner gibbering on about absolute nonsense. But it is funny at points, and it I don't know. I think it's something that we will continue to do and enjoy, and we'll just see where it goes to. I've had guests on, which I'm still in the process of putting those podcasts online, but we've had the most amount of feedback from just our chats we have every night, which I just, it's one of those things I can't believe people actually want to listen to that.
But I suppose that's the thing, though. There are a lot of people out there that want to immerse themselves in, as you said. I think you said your partner's a gamekeeper, and it's they want to immerse themselves in that, but they don't particularly want to do it themselves. So listening to your story and you telling about the day and stuff like that, they can join you, as I think is the key, but they still have the comfort of their armchair or their cozy house or their nice warm car in the commute in the morning before work starts. So they actually kind of get that moment to step outside of their bubble, join your bubble, but they know that the reality is it's pretty safe when they turn it off. They're still in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not, as I say, out in the rain and doing stuff like that, and they are in their cozy car and they get to sit down at the end of the day and they don't have 20 dogs in the kennels to muck out, walk and feed and all of that. So
And the normal power cuts that happen up the glens or the snow or all the rest of it, that basically means
yeah,
that's it, you're cut off for the day.
yeah, Glen life just doing you dirty as usual, just to add on top of the nonsense you've had in that day, and then trying to keep a baby happy and Tay, because that's worse than the baby at most points.
Fantastic. So you were saying there, obviously, I'm assuming the dogs are. Have you got a mixture of dogs that are used for obviously gamekeeping, and then I think you've got sheep as well. So have you got working dogs in there for other things?
Yeah, we've got a big mixture of dogs. We've got collies, a fair few collies. I think they're our biggest. I think we've got 9. We might actually have 10. We've just bought a young
Okay.
one in for training. So we've got 10 collies at the moment. We've got labs and spaniels and terriers. We've also got a protection dog, which is a fairly new. I say fairly new. She's 2 years old now, so we've had her for a while. But protection dog as a whole is a new hobby we've got into.
Okay.
So they are all working dogs, whether we're taking them out on the shoots, picking up, beating, whatnot, using the terriers for what terriers are for, and then the collies get a lot of work.
I was going to
So
say, is that
yeah,
something you do sort of as well as that, as obviously being a full time mum now? Is dog training something that is something you do?
it's something I'm trying to help do.
Okay.
So it's obviously not very easy to cart Mabel about on your back sometimes if you've got dogs that don't listen to you or being a bit naughty. So usually Mabel comes along in the pram or she's strapped to the front of me. But it is Tay's business. I just exercise, clean, feed, and I have got my own set of dogs out of that big 20 that are
Okay.
mine, which are probably the least well behaved dogs out of the bunch of them.
Don't say that. You've got the
But
best dogs, haven't you? You can't say that yours are the worst.
I can't say that Tays are, because I've got a very naughty Springer Spaniel, which I've had way before I'd met Tay. So he does let the side down on occasion, but he's a cracker. But the collie training is something that's quite big with us at the moment. We've kind of cracked the code with our dogs and how to train them up, which we bought a dog last year, because we actually moved down to the borders for a shepherd's job,
Okay.
and Tay had one good dog and then a couple of pups, so wasn't particularly keen on doing all the sheep with just his one good dog. So bought this other dog, couldn't find somebody to kind of help learn to train collies, if you
Right.
will. So we were kind of put under a bit of pressure there, and he learned fairly fast how to train collies. And now he's had numerous people ask him to come and train his collies. We get people up for lessons. We're selling fully trained collies, part trained
Oh,
collies,
fantastic.
and now I'm trying to learn the tricks that he's got. I've just kept my first collie, a homebred collie, and hopefully it'll be the best behaved out of the bunch. But I have my hesitations on that. I'm not
Well,
sure
I
yet.
was going to say sheep seem to be the big thing at the moment. Looking at everywhere I go, like my farms up here in Aberdeenshire that used to be lovely, just green fields for going stalking on or put my pheasants down. Now just get inundated with sheep because sheep seem to be the big trend at the minute. Is that something that you know much about?
Uh, I don't. Yes and no. I feel like a lot of people have sheep now, and you've got you can't make money off of sheep, so you've got to have a lot of them
Yep.
to if you want to make money, unless you're into specific breedings and whatnot. But that's a completely different road to go down. There's, I mean, loads of people to have different sheep for different things. We've got swales up on the estate that we are at,
Okay.
and they're completely probably different to the sheep that you see around in your paddocks. They're probably more of Texley things or for meat, and ours are meant for something like a tick mop system.
I was going to
So
say, that's my next question. Obviously, being down on the hill, I think we were talking, and we're not. The hill I stalk on is not far from where you are. Tick wise, do your sheep do your sheep actually mop the ticks up, or is the new chemicals they're putting on them just kind of repelling the ticks?
I wouldn't know because it's something that we've just taken on for the hill this year.
Okay,
So
right,
we will soon find out, but it's we've got Lipen in ill on this hill, so we'll soon yeah, we'll soon find out type thing. But it's
definitely.
basically just the moving of the sheep around it. We'll just have to see what
Well,
happens.
hopefully it will help because we have seen differences on, for example, the estate that's not far away. We'll talk about it because Glen Prosen obviously was taken over by Forestry Commission, and there's no grazing left on there now. And the tick problem up there it's obscene. When you see foxes coming off the hill that are covered in ticks, and normally foxes are pretty clean, it just goes to
Mm-hmm.
show that people need to understand that you could rewild a place, but if you're going to not graze it, you're not going to do it any favours at all.
No, absolutely, and especially if there's a deer population on it, there's going to be ticks everywhere too.
Yeah.
That's just one of those things that they carry a lot. So we've got specific parts of the hill that are meant to be deer free, and that's where the sheep should be mopping up ticks. But there's deer everywhere, so
Well,
it's
that's
one
the
of those
problem, isn't
things.
it? Yeah, exactly. I think there's always going to be deer, and they're all going to be about, and there'll always be ticks. But then they say that hares as well are just as bad at carrying ticks around the place. So, and there's
Yeah,
lots of those down that way. So yeah.
there definitely is. I've just driven to go and feed the horse, and there was a white hare running off onto the hill, which is quite a sight to see at this time of year.
So obviously you have we were just saying you've got a new little one. How's that affected life for you in sort of the dog training, the shepherding, and the family farming type of thing? Has it been a big change?
It's definitely been a big change. I'm quite proactive with work and whatnot. I'm not somebody that can sit at a desk, not that I ever have, and work on a computer. I'm always out either helping with sheep, helping with dogs, just outside, hands on. That's me. So as soon as I found out I was having a baby, it you've got all these people saying, "Oh no, you can't do that. You definitely can't do that." And goodness, I took so badly to it that you know yourself. If somebody says you can't do something, you go out your way to make sure you do it, and you do it really bloody well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I I have had a bit of a realization now. It's not easy to do things with a baby. As much as I want to be out and helping all the time, it's not fair on the baby at all because I feel guilty if I get stuff done, a load of stuff done outside that I need to get done job wise with the dogs. I feel like I'm not doing enough with the baby and vice versa. So trying to find a balance with that, I I don't know the answer to that. It's
No,
it's
it's just a curious one because there'll be people listening that
yeah.
my demographic ranges from all age groups. So there'll be people out there that are young farmers or are a young couple that are hunting, gamekeepers, etc., etc., even to the older generation, and they'll all have a different opinion. But it's interesting to see somebody that's in this. Your obviously partner's a gamekeeper shepherd. You live up the glens, which is not the easiest of places to live anyway. You've got a youngster and you've got a lot to get on with, so people will be able to relate to what's going on there, and that's why the tips of wisdom you're giving are kind of useful for them to sort of go, okay, yeah, it's not a walk in the park.
No, it's definitely not a walk in the park, and I think having a bit of a routine, well, getting a baby into a routine is a challenge enough, but if you do, then getting her up and fed and yourself ready and getting out and doing the dogs and feeding everything else and getting everything out for a walk, that's it could take all day. You honestly, you think, right, I've got this list of jobs to do. I got this done in the morning yesterday, so I should manage to get it done in this certain time. And the baby kicks off and that's it. It's 5 o'clock and you're like, what? I've not got anything done.
You wait till she's a toddler. Mine's now 3 and literally wants to help you with everything. And I mean, help with everything. So you've got your dogs will get fed 2 or 3 times a day. Trust me. Mine do.
I can't wait for an extra set of hands. Goodness, no, I think I've got it lucky at the moment. She's not running around pulling tails and whatnot, getting into carnage at the moment.
All of that to come, but there you go. But as I say, it's a great lifestyle to bring a child up in, especially in this day and age. To have the freedom that we, especially in Scotland, that we've got. I think we're incredibly lucky and incredibly safe that that as she gets older, she can be out and about, and you don't have to worry as much.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I'm very lucky to live where I live and have everything around me that I've got, because I can't wait to see her explore that. And not I had animals and whatnot when I was growing up, so I had all these things around me, but it's going to be so special seeing her grow up with it as well.
Especially in this day and age of the way that I'd say the pressure and the negativity we have to the countryside, that I find, even where we are, we're rural, but you get kids at school. Obviously, they know what I do. When my daughter walks in with a foxtail, and the teacher asks, "Where did that come from?" and one of the PSAs turns around and goes, "Her dad probably shot it." That's the kind of comments, and people don't understand it because that rural way is kind of hushed.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I think there's a massive disconnect from the countryside way of life now, with hunting. I think hunting is a complete taboo subject with a lot of people, and it shouldn't be. It's like we breed chickens and stuff to butcher so that we have food for our fridge and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, why don't you just buy it from the shops?" And I just think, you mad?
Yeah.
Like, if you've got the opportunity to make your own food and know exactly where it's coming from, you've grown it, you've hatched it, you've butchered it yourself, you've processed it, it's in the freezer, you then cook it, and you can do that all from here, and it's not jumped around the whole of wherever to get on the plate. I just think
you're
not?
absolutely well. Tonight we had pheasant fajitas, and they came from a local shoot that I was at on Saturday. But I tell you what, there you go, team of guns shooting on a day, and the gamekeeper says, "Would anybody like to take some game away?" And he kind of looked, he knew that I was going to jump in and go and grab some game, but he looked at everybody else, and I was disappointed. I had been invited as a guest, and for only one other person to, I'll just have a brace of ducks. And he goes, "How many do you want, Pete?" And I went, "Well, I'll just have all the hens." And it was about 26 hens. I was like, "I won't take them all. I'll just take 17 and a pile of ducks." And the rest of them were just like, "What are you doing with all of that?" I'm like, "Well, that's my chicken. I'm going to take it home, butcher it, and put it in the freezer." But yeah, it's just shocking that in this day and age, especially with guys out shooting, the attitude of still not taking the game. And I think if you're going to shoot it, you really do need to take it home with you. and yeah, it goes the same with your butcher and your chickens and things like that. If we can just, it's education, and hopefully these like podcasts and social media might start to have a positive effect on this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. We eat pheasant a lot, pheasant, partridge, venison, all that. And I mean, if you're given the opportunity to take birds away from a shoot, which we're lucky that we live on the shoot, so we've got birds whenever we want to.
Yep.
We not only you can eat them, we use them for dog training. We've got ferrets that they get fed on as well. So there's not just it's a waste not to use this kind of thing, I think. And yeah, with ducks as well. We did that with ducks last year. We still got duck in the freezer. I just think it's a great way to not have to buy supermarket stuff sometimes.
It does actually make a huge difference on your food shopping bill as well. We noticed that when you're not buying the meat products, for example, chicken, your beef, which we replace with venison and things like that, there's a huge saving to be had. But a lot of people, I think, worry that they don't know where to get it from, and I think that's the big thing. If they just need to ask. I know it might not be, not everybody's up here and not everybody knows, but with social media these days, if people just have to reach out, and I'm sure 90% of the hunters would turn around and go, yeah, I'll sort you some venison out, or I'll get you a couple of braces of pheasants. It's just do it that way, and hopefully share the experience with people.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think a lot of people wouldn't know what to do if you did drop a pheasant on their doorstep and say, "There you go, there's your dinner."
Well, it's funny you
But
should say that, but I do normally just rock up and hang them on like the doorknob, and
yeah,
then you get this phone call. What do I do with it? Here's a
yeah,
YouTube video kind of thing, but
yeah.
yeah,
No,
keeps them happy.
that is funny. I do remember plucking pheasants in the garage with my dad, thinking, "Oh, we're going to eat this. This is so exciting!" And now that's basically a weekly a thing for our house. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's it is quite nice.
But that's really good. So obviously, is this lifestyle that you're in now? Is this something you want to carry on? Buy your own croft? I don't know whether you've bought here or you're just renting, or is it buy your own croft, buy your own farm in the future?
Um, we don't own anything now at the moment. But we are looking to buy land, not in the not so future. We've actually been looking around. I think it's quite difficult at the moment. Land prices are very expensive for what they're worth. We've been to go and see a few things, and what you're getting for 4 acres is just you think what that's not even worth it. I might as well buy a flat somewhere and rent that out. And
Yes,
it's
and that was kind of leading to the next question. It's the next generation of people trying to do this, the younger generation that want to get into having a croft, having some land, being able to have a small holding. Do you think at the moment that's kind of, it's not going to happen? It's almost non-existent.
I think it is quite. It will become more difficult to, just with prices of things, and there's not really. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to say. Well, there's no. There's not really. What is the word? I've got it in. It's in the front of my head.
We'll come back to that. I'm sure it'll jump into your mind in a moment as soon as it comes in. But yeah, I think just with the current trend, and there's only so much. There's only a finite amount of land, and once upon a time, farms would have been handed down generation to generation. But it just seems as though that there are either, especially up here now, you've got more people coming in to buy the land up to either plant trees on it or try and do some carbon capture or something like that, which I think has boosted the price of land to the point where it's actually it stops a young couple potentially getting onto the market.
100%. I think the word I was looking for was incentive. It's come to the front of my head. So there is no incentive for a lot of people to buy these crofts anymore, because your subsidies and all these different sort of government things that are going on at the moment, it's not worth your money. You can't make any money from it, and it's too expensive. And it's easier to say, "Oh, I'll go and buy a house like that and that'll do us. We'll just have some animals. We'll have some dogs in the kennels or something like that. It's just not worth the money at the moment. I mean, that's just from our point of view. We're finding it really difficult, but that's something else.
But I think that's just the way it is, isn't it? You're probably, we look at this and there's people listening that have a 9 to 5 job. They get up, they do their country lifestyle in the weekend. They go to work every day. They do their 9 to 5. They look on the internet. They live our lifestyle that they see, and they want it. But in reality, the cold dark truth of it is they don't want to be out in the dark at 9 o'clock at night when it's sideways rain, mucking out dogs or cleaning up horses or trying to get something back in a paddock.
Yeah, I do agree. It is a different lifestyle altogether. As much as you've got what people call weekend warriors, it's not the same. When you live with a gamekeeper or a shepherd, they can't switch off. When you've got all these animals around you and it's 9 o'clock at night, something needs you more than the TV needs you.
Well, you've got sheep. They need everybody, don't they? They are one of the things that they just want to die.
Yeah, they just got an excuse to die and escape at some point in their life every day. But it is a specific lifestyle that not a lot of people, well, they want until they have it. And then they realize it's actually quite tough. It's not as glamorous as it looks. It's a lot of hard work and there's not a lot of money in it. But if you love the lifestyle, you do it for the lifestyle. You don't do it for the money.
The Outdoor Gibbon podcast is proudly sponsored by the Shooting and Hunting Academy. Through the Academy, shooters, hunters, and those involved in the use of firearms can gain an in-depth and unique level of training that enables them to shoot better, behave more effectively in the field, up their strike rates, as well as learning new skills. Crucially, those new to deer stalking, the Academy also offers the Proficient Deer Stalker Certificate Level 1, the PDS-1, a deer management certificate that is nationally recognised and accredited both by LANTRA and UK Rural Skills. Visit the Shooting and Hunting Academy to find out more. Let's get back to the show. So, just out of curiosity, on your side of the glen, because I've not been up there that much, is it still well populated with people that work in the glen, or has it become like, obviously, when I was on Glen Clover, there's lots of holiday cottages, there's very few people that actually live up the glen anymore, and it's kind of one of those things that doesn't have the community. I'm not sure how yours is.
I think we're very lucky with Glenesk. There's a lovely community. Everybody's Gleners up here. There are obviously a few holiday cottages and whatnot, but the majority of the people up here live and work up here, and if they don't, their partner lives and works up here. Okay. And even just coming up Glenesk, there's four different estates on the way up, or three different estates on the way up, sorry. So it's one of the biggest working glens in the area, I'm sure, because there's so many shoots on it.
And it just goes, it's amazing though when you think of it, that it's that, yeah, you said it's got 4 shoots on it. So all of those estates bring the community together and keep people there. So let's be the devil's advocate, and we go down the route of, we're talking about all of these estates getting sold off and rewilding, and well, Prosen, for example, just across the way from you, had a community that lived on it. It's been sold to Forestry Commission with some great idea to plant trees. Suddenly you've destroyed the community. So where you would be living, you wouldn't have virtually anybody to talk to or be part of. And it just goes to show that it's very easy for this to happen and estate life to disappear.
I think it's almost too easy sometimes, because people are offered a big wad of money to put a bunch of trees on, and that's a ticket out of there. And I don't think a lot of people understand how much income these shoots have on not only people up the glen, but you've got beaters coming up, you're supplying game to everybody. It's not just, oh, you're just shooting birds for fun. It's so much more than that. And it's, I mean, it's supplying my partner with a job. It's a massive boost to the economy that a lot of people don't see.
Yeah,
They just
yeah.
think it's, oh, it's just shooting birds, or just shooting deer, or
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
that's it, isn't it? They don't realise that there's obviously the local garage that gets all the vehicle repairs. You've got the local shop
Yeah,
that's doing everything. You will have a child that will go to the local school, and realistically, it's a community that relies on one the estate, but it relies on the clients, the customers that come up there. And as you say, you're lucky. The estate you're on is yeah, it's a pretty busy place up there, and with three other estates around you, it keeps it busy. But as you say, you can look across, and different glens have different situations occurring all the time up here.
yeah, no, I do agree. Well, where we had moved from as well, down at the borders, as we'd left, they'd sold it all off to forestry. So that place would have been absolutely lovely for a young family to start farming on their own, but it was easier for the person that owned it to sell it off and
Yep.
make a load of money on forestry. And it's that quick, that 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 quick boost of money rather than another 4 generations farming it. And I think that's quite a sad thing, really.
It's because it ticks a box for a government incentive to plant some trees that they're going to say are going to save the planet, and yet what they don't, nobody realizes, and I know that my listeners all know this because most of them are going to be stalkers and shooters, but share this chat with the people that don't stalk, don't shoot, don't farm, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that need to listen, even to somebody that's living up the glen now. That if if that community disappears, it's lost forever. It doesn't come back in the future.
Yeah, no, it certainly wouldn't. And it's Glenesk. Since I've been young, I've been coming up here beating, and it's like home coming up here. And all the people you've known since you're younger, if that were to go, it would just not be the same place. Brecon as a whole, and Angus, it wouldn't be the same community, as you say.
And it's too easy. I think youngsters now want to move away from the glens because they obviously see the attraction of the big city lights and they want to go there. But it's that point. I think you're probably lucky that you're a young lady that started a family, but you still want to stay up the glens. Most people would want to be in the big city where it's all happening, enjoying themselves, and then when they get to an age, they suddenly realise, actually, this is not what I want. I do want to move back. At which point, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, my sister and I, we're a little bit chalk and cheese. She does love the countryside and whatnot, but she went away to university in Aberdeen and got that kind of city vibe for a bit. And she's living out in Aberdeen at the moment. She loves it, but they've got their spaniel and whatnot. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. I wanted to be at home, have my little dog, be able to go and work at the local farm, and that the whole city vibe just didn't appeal to me at all. So I know my sister now would rather come back and do stuff in the country, but her job kind of keeps her closer to town because she works as a physio. So I'm just grateful I'm still able to stay out here and do my own thing up the glen.
Oh, fantastic! So going forward, obviously, you're starting the podcast, the social media. Have you had any other ideas of things you could do, like bringing people up to the glen, like for the crofting experience type of thing, or is that something that you've thought about?
Um, I haven't thought about doing that. I'm sure there's a lot of things we've not thought about doing. We do um think though we I don't know. I suppose we bring people up to do dog lessons and
Okay.
whatnot, and they kind of look about and think, oh wow, what an amazing lifestyle, and you're running around trying to scoop chickens away from other dogs, and you think, oh, yeah, yeah, it's great. So I'm sure we'll look at doing something like that. Maybe not bring as much people up the house, and maybe have a YouTube channel or something like that, so they can see it. I don't know. I've not really thought about it.
I'm just throwing questions at you and catching you on the fly, really, just to see where. Well, there you go. Let's you tell me where sort of things are going for you now, really, with obviously the podcast, the social media presence, and all the rest of it. What's your next step?
That's a big question. I don't really know with social media. It's one of those things that it skyrockets so fast, and it could easily just drop you.
Well, here's a question then. So obviously you have grown a social media presence. You talk about the hunting world, the shooting world, the dog training, and all the rest of it. How do you find it's all positive, or do you get a much negativity on it? I know you don't post pictures of dead stuff and things like that like some do, but do you still have the same effect, obviously being in the countryside, as a lot of the guys and girls that go out shooting and hunting?
I mean, I think if I did post more of that, I would have had a lot more of a negative response, just because of the people that follow me. I've got a lot of I'm not that I'm scared to show young girls that kind of thing, because that's what I'm all about.
Yep.
But there's a lot of things I've posted over the years, and all the hunting and whatnot, I do kind of keep for myself and my family.
Okay.
And I know there's a few brands that I work with that would rather I didn't post with dead animals.
Okay.
Which I'm like, I'll send pictures in the family group chat with a fox and think, oh, this is great. But I don't think I would have had the same response if I put it on my Instagram. I'm not saying that I wouldn't, because I would, because I love doing stuff like that. But you definitely, when you've got a bit of a following, have to be careful what you're posting, because if you've maintained a certain image the whole time and you start posting something different, that's when people say, oh no, I don't like that.
It's interesting, because it's a curious one, because obviously the lifestyle you lead in the real world, and then you've got your social media presence, you can see that the two, you've kept them separated, and it's obviously been a strategic plan, which is great, because actually it will probably benefit you in the future, that you have an audience, especially when you're trying to launch things and all the rest of it, to just go straight into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think I have been very lucky with the growth on social media. It was completely just not expected. I'm not sure why I've got so many followers. It's one of those moments you think, oh, actually, there's a lot of people that watch what you do, which is a bit surprising, and it's definitely helped with this podcast. It's definitely one of those things that you just think, wow, people actually want to listen to you, and I still can't wrap my head around that. And I hope it continues to grow. If it doesn't, then I'm just grateful for the opportunities that I've been given along the way, because there's been so many amazing brands and opportunities I've gotten involved with that I just never thought that I'd ever have the chance to do. And you kind of see these people on Instagram and you think, oh wow, she's really cool, she's got that going for her. And in my head, I'm just little Matilda up the glen, quiet life with Mabel, training a couple dogs, nothing out of the ordinary going on. So why would people want to tune in? But
probably what comes across, and people see that, and that's why they want to follow and be part of that lifestyle. And it's really interesting, because 90% of probably my listeners will be the people that would be posting the pictures up on social media and all the rest of it. So to talk to somebody that does it but doesn't show it is really is an interesting way, because you won't have suffered with all of the problems that most of the hunters and the shooters have had, where we've ended up like with our shadow bans and Instagram hating us and things like that. So you will sail through all of that with no problems at all.
That's it. What we actually do sometimes is, if we've got a lot of deer in, we'll process it for dog food. So I'll put it through the grinder and weigh it up for the dogs and put it in the freezer. So we've got raw dog food for a while. And me and my partner actually made a video on it, and he got shadow banned. And I just thought, oh goodness, that's because he's trying to grow his dog page up, and it's one of those things, like, you are literally taking something, like, you've got an animal there that's been shot for a reason. It's not just been shot for just for fun. You are turning it into something else for an animal. So it's going through the full cycle is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just can't get my words out. And we're literally doing it all at home, as I say before, butchering the chickens and whatnot. I'm mincing this meat up, and I've taken a video of it all from being shot on the hill to in its little processed vacuum pack on the kitchen table with my dog standing over it. And it's shadow banned, and I just can't understand that. I think it's like one of those things is amazing. Like, I would have loved to see something like that when I was younger, and now you can't push stuff like this because people want to buy stuff from the supermarket and not.
Well, I think you touched on it right at the beginning. It's the disconnect. It's that complete disconnect of, we don't have to. It's the guilty conscience. If it comes in a packet and it's already there, there's no guilt. Whereas actually, when you look at it, and I say to anybody that comes to take their first deer, the moment it looks back at you, that's going to be your point where can you still squeeze the trigger, because the responsibility of taking that life is massive. And if you can make peace with that and do it, and you know that everything from that point on you're going to process and eat it and enjoy it and share it with your friends and family, that's fine. And I think that's where the world has changed. They don't want to see, or they don't want to know where that burger came from or where that box of meat came from.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, and it's one of those things. They almost make you feel guilty for doing it, and then you realize that the animals that we are doing it with are out on the hill. They don't know what's going on. It's over. They've been butchered. It's a clean, slick process, and you know where your food's come from. I'd much rather that over anything else.
Well, it's got no transportation mileage, has it? Okay, it might have a few miles to drag it off the hill, but by the time it's in the larder and processed, that is probably the best source of protein you're going to get. Whereas you say to somebody, "Oh, they've gone out. I've bought some New Zealand lamb." Great. Okay, so you're not helping a British farmer at all. You've now bought something from a farm in New Zealand that's travelled halfway around the world to get here. It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, that doesn't make sense to me. But we were very lucky that growing up, my dad, he actually controlled the deer population on one of the military bases, and we just grew up on roe.
Yep.
There was roe in the freezer, roe in our freezer. Just I think we had 4 freezers at home, so that was what was for tea. And my dad used to do it absolutely brilliant on the barbecue. So when summer came round, that was just one of those things.
It's what my children have been brought up with. That there is most of the meat they've eaten in their life has probably been harvested by me, whether it's going to be roe or some sort of venison. Then we've got our chicken supply is either going to be pheasant or partridge, or even the chickens from the garden occasionally. They turned up on the Christmas table, and things like that. But it's just because I was like, I know exactly where it is. I know what it's eaten. I know what it's done. And I think that's more important. And I think that's why I do a lot of work with the scouts, and we try and get them eating venison and pheasant and stuff like that, because I think if you can just educate the kids, they can take that home to their parents.
Oh yeah, completely. I can't remember what group it is. Maybe the Mountain Moorlands group that runs. They do a lot with showing the school kids around, and I think that's brilliant. You see it on social media now. They run days for the kids, and they show you actually what goes on up the hill even from putting traps out, how they set traps, what their traps are for, to taking them into a butcher and showing them how they sort out a deer or pluck the pheasants and
Yeah.
partridge and breast them. And I think that's brilliant, because I mean, when I was at school that wasn't a thing, but I'm very lucky that my father was so involved with it that I got to do that at home. So there is that education wise at the moment, which I'm looking forward to Mabel being able to go into school and she knows it all already, and then goes on one of these mountain moorland days and she's like, oh, I can do this, let me do it.
Yeah. No,
Just
and I think that's great. And the biggest fear is that your child doesn't suffer though with the, oh, you can't say that and you can't do that. And there are teachers that I was listening to something today, and it was a chat with four other guys, and a conversation came up about his son going to school and explaining that his father was a deer stalker, and the school turned around and went, no, we don't want you to talk about that in front of with the other children. And you're just like, wow, that's so bad.
Yeah. It's part of life, and as I think I said before, I think hunting as a whole is a taboo, as they say, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. And I think we're lucky in this glen. The primary school's literally at the bottom of the glen. The gamekeepers' children from all up and down the glen go to the school, so more often than not they'll be talking about stuff like that, and I'm sure it's normal there, but you might venture into Brecon and people might say something a bit different. But it is scary to think what direction things will go in a couple of years.
Yeah, most of our family, mine and my wife's, live down south, and all our relatives are that way. And it's a very different world when we go to visit. And I think I was down there the last time and ended up going out to see a friend, shot a fallow, brought it back to a suburban street in Surrey, and ended up hanging it on the gatepost, butchering it. And I've got people looking and seeing, it's like there's a man killing something or butchering something. It's just like, well, no, I need to get it packed away as quick as possible because there's no chiller down here. But for me it's perfectly normal, but for them it's like it's a massacre occurring. Wild. Yeah, totally. Yeah. This feral guy is rocked up, and he's hacking bits off some animal that's hanging off a gatepost. But
being the community page, absolute madman running about the street.
But
police.
Whereas my kids are like, oh, Dad's just taking another deer to bits outside, he's skinning something, he's sitting on a deer skin on the snow or something like that. It's just like, but that's it. And I wasn't brought up though in a community doing that. I was born in South Wales, and that wasn't the community I was brought up in. That was something that we lived in the countryside and I wanted to get into, and it took a long time to get to that. And now I enjoy it, but I want to be able to allow my children to see it, but I don't force it on them. It's up to them, and I think that's critical, really, to allow them to grow in their own way.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a lovely way of thinking of it. I think I was quite lucky. As I say, my dad used to control the deer population, and we had a tree house that he built, and he used to string the deer up on there and he'd bring them back and butcher it. And one of my fond memories is sitting out on one of the swings, and he'll point to different parts of the deer and say, what's that and what's that, and our two terriers sat on the grass eating the heart and whatnot. And it, as I say, I'm looking forward to Mabel growing up with that, and I hope that she enjoys it. We'll try not to push things too much onto her, because it is a lot.
Yes,
I suppose for kids, and you do find that a lot of kids that have grown up in such a not strict, but like a fast-paced lifestyle like that just want nothing to do with it with a certain age. So I'm just hoping Mabel likes dogs and horses at some point, because we'd be a bit buggered if not.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. I think with the modern society and everything that children go through, I think it's almost to the point where you let them find their own feet. Now, they may move away from it for a number of years, but if the seeds are there, they could always come back to it. And I think if you pressure it too much, then it can drive that wedge in, and especially with the peer pressure of all their friends and things like that, that can be quite tricky. She'll be fine probably at primary school, but when she goes to secondary school, there's a whole new world of people out there and things to find. But it's just, yeah, let them do what they want to do, let them be children, and I'm sure it will all turn out for the best, kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope she likes chickens. That's my main concern.
Oh, chickens are a great thing. Mine carry them around the garden, and then they moan about the smell. But that's just one of those things. But yeah, chickens are always funny, and it's pheasants. I've got my 3-year-old pictures of her the other day carrying one at a time off the back of the truck. There's a pheasant, and then she's like, "But this one's different." And I'm like, "That's a duck." Oh, okay. 4 ducks move across the yard and get placed on the table carefully. She doesn't care. And it's like, oh, why is this one this? And it's like its head was hanging down, and she was just like, okay, fine, and it didn't bother her. And that's it's so nice that at that age she can just pick it up. And my other daughter's 11 now, and she's dealt with puppies being born, the death that can occur. We lost a pup, and yes, she was sad, but she goes, it died, and we didn't gloss over it. We didn't make it that it was she shouldn't see it. So she went to school and told everybody that she'd had 4 puppies and one of them hadn't made it and it died, and she buried it in a box in the garden. And for her, it was dealing with death straight away.
I think that's such an important thing, letting them see these things and not sheltering them from it. Because one day when it comes to it and they've not had to deal with it emotionally or see it before, that's when it's like, oh no, I can't deal with that. I'd rather.
Yeah, you're right. And
Yeah.
I think that society nowadays is stopping we cover the eyes of the children. We don't want them to see death, or even an animal on a farm could have an issue and be put down. But if you cover that up, most farmers' kids or kids that live in the countryside understand that straight away. But you get their friends that maybe came from the city or the town. For them, it's a completely different world.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I hope that we can kind of guide Mabel in that sense and say, well, this is had to be put down, and this is the reason why, and she can then say, oh well, that's not died for nothing. It's died for a reason, and this is why. And it's not a negative thing. It's probably more of a positive thing, and just not sheltering her from it, because I just don't think. Well, that's my opinion. I don't think it helps sheltering children from things. It just
it just means they can't deal with it as they get older. That's the usual problem. Yeah. And in this day and age, I think you need to be. The world's a bad enough place as it is, so if they can deal with those bits that life and death occur, then happy days. They've got a good side to them already.
No, absolutely no. I do agree with you.
Well, we won't finish on a morbid bit. We'll try and find something good. So with your dog training, you were saying you do a lot with, obviously, we're just going to dive it back to something different. You do a lot with the collies, but do you offer dog training for other, like working gun dogs and stuff like that?
Is something that we've done. I did actually train a lab last year for somebody. So the gun dogs is a big thing as well. It's one of those things, I think, for us, the collies are bigger because it almost seems like people are phasing out of gun dogs. But I absolutely love training my spaniel since I got him. So he's 7 years old now, and I seem to remember my dad bought one of those little guns with the blanks that you shoot,
Yeah.
and we had a trialer come up and give us a few lessons. I think he did say, "Oh, that dog needs to behave better before you come back for lessons," but that was years ago. So that's neither here nor there. I often get lessons from Tay, and he's really quite spot on with his labs. Spaniels are a different story. I've got a cocker and a springer, and they're also both very different stories because my springer is what we call self-employed. He does his own thing. He comes back sometimes, usually with a bird in his mouth. And my cocker, she's such a loyal little dog. They're just loyal. They stay close. They're just perfect little dogs. if I could start fresh, I would get cockers all the way because they're so much easier than springers, I think, just in my opinion.
You've just started a massive debate now that whether it's going to be labs, cockers or springers. See, I'd have to disagree with you and say it's got to be springers because I've got 3 of them. So always have had springers, but they, as you say, they are wild, and they sometimes do their own, when they're out, they know they're out of earshot, or they know that you can't run after them quick enough. That's when they go self-employed, as you'd say. Yeah,
exactly. It's just when you can't quite get to them fast enough, or you're dealing with a different dog, that's when they decide that no, I'm gonna take that mile this time, and I'm gonna run over there. And it always seems to be when there's guns going off everywhere, there's birds falling, my spaniel just seems to go, he loses it. He's like, okay, there's too much going on, I'm just gonna run around in a circle. And
I know that feeling. That's exactly like my mum does. She is great, but she's so used to walked up shoots that she's like, every time a gun goes off, well, something should fall out the sky, so I'm just going to run the entire line and get to the end and make sure there's nothing there. It's like, that's not what you want, but hey, that's just life anyway. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, because obviously you are a busy person and you've probably got things to keep doing, and we are quite late into the evening. But thank you ever so much for coming on and giving us a bit of an insight as to living up the glen and talking to somebody that's obviously trying to produce a family and all these other wonderful things you're doing.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I hope I didn't waffle on too much or stutter too much.
I think we've had some good topics covered there. So yeah, hopefully our listeners will enjoy it. Now, as I say, Tilly does have a podcast. It's called Tilly Talks. Go and find it. Go and have a listen. Give us some support, like you've all done for me over the years. And hopefully take it to the next level. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was really nice to chat to somebody that's so passionate about obviously embracing glen life, bringing her child up in this environment, all the things they're doing, making a business out of it, working with their dogs. So yeah, as I suggest, go along, follow her on the socials, have a listen to her podcasts. She's just starting out, so a bit of support like you guys all did for me at the beginning would be great. And see where you can take it. Anyway, we will catch you on the next one, but thanks for listening.